All right, today we're going to be talking about MLA citations as well as your annotated bibliography. If you'll remember, on Friday of this week you have your first piece of your research paper that's due, and that's the annotated bibliography. Some of you may have done one of these before in a class, but others may not. So I'm going to kind of go through how we cite sources, how we research here at OBU, and then we'll look at exactly what an annotated bibliography is. Okay, so first let's start off with plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Many people think it's kind of just copying another's work or borrowing, but terms like copying and borrowing can really kind of disguise how serious of a problem that it is. It's really stealing, passing off ideas of others as your own. It can use another's production without crediting the source. Some people consider it a type of literary theft. And it's any time, though, that you present a new and original idea derived from an existing source. So it is an act of fraud, and it involves stealing someone else's work and lying about it afterwards. And this is a really serious offense, especially in a college setting like this. OBU looks at it very seriously. We use Turnitin.com to help us track people that are plagiarizing. It tracks millions of texts and documents and things that are on the internet, other papers that have been turned in order to help with this. But your best bet is just to not do it. So let's talk about some of the things that we do when we look for a we look for a source and how we do cite those. So common quality sources include things like books and articles, serious trade books and articles, and sponsored websites. And we'll go through kind of what those are. But first, when you're trying to determine if it's a good, quote, good source or not, you want to look at your source, kind of examine it. Look at it from an authority and reputation. So if you're looking at the National Enquirer website versus something like a Newsweek website, obviously the reputation of Newsweek is going to be considered higher than the reputation of the National Enquirer. So you have to kind of think about the reputation of the website, the journal, the paper, whatever it is you're using. Timeliness and stability. Timeliness is an important thing to consider, especially if you're doing something about somewhat of a current event. You know, in this class, you have the opportunity to talk about immigration a little bit. Well, obviously, more timely articles are going to be more pertinent because it's a very timely issue. Now, if you're looking at something like Greek mythology in next semester's 1163 class, the timeliness of some of your articles may not matter as much because that was written so long ago, and you may want something that had some time underneath it. Bias is another area. So, is it slanted? Maybe you're looking at a website, try to figure out whether it's being paid for by somebody that would have a reason to give it a slant or a bias in some way. So just look at it. Doesn't mean you can't use the source. It just means you need to take a look at it. Okay, I want to take a minute and see if you guys know how to look at sources, find sources in our library. Hopefully you've done that at least last semester, but in case you haven't, I want to just show you kind of where you're going to look. If you'll go to the OBU website, go under academics, and you can go to maybe Learning Center, and that's one way you can get it, or you can just type directly in okbu.libguides.com. And this is really where you get to search all the different databases that the library subscribes to. Well, I always tell my 1153 students, you guys have it so easy because you can search the library any time of day or night, from your room, from off campus, from wherever you want. When I was a student there, I had to actually walk to the library, and I had to actually find the book or the magazine, and it was much more difficult. So you guys just have it easy. But these are all different ones you can use. I would suggest using this Academic Search Complete for this class. It's a good one. It even tells you over here that it's used by students frequently in English composition. So I would go ahead and stick to that and click on it. If you are on campus using your ResNet, then you shouldn't have any trouble getting it. If not, then you will have to log in. You'll want to use your it's not the same as mine. You'll use like I think it's your ID and what you typically would use. So, okay, so once you get in, then you just search. And so the ways you can search are like this. Like, let's say we're going to do the model, I'm going to do model family and 1950s and television. Okay, so let's say we're going to write our paper about how the model family was depicted in the 1950s. You can hit search. We got one article. The Father Knows Best and the Cosby Show. Nostalgia and the sitcom tradition. Okay, so that would be a good article to look at. And the nice thing about this is you can look right here and get a PDF full text of that entire article. Some of the little delineations over here you can do, like sometimes I will limit it to full text only, so that I only get articles that I can actually read online. If not, you might get an article that just shows you your reference, and that's one that you can't really find. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So let's say we thought, I wish there was more to that. So let's just do family 1950s and television and see what comes up. Okay, so there we got 48 articles. So we can look through any of these, but they all have this full text right here. So you're able to click on it and have the entire article right there. Another thing that you can do once you've logged in is you can save it. Over here you can print it, email it, or save it. And so you can even make a folder for 1153 if you want to with articles about it. You don't have to fill all of these in. You could just do family, let's just do model family 1950s. See what comes up. It may be too big. No, only 6. So you can look through some of these and see if any of these would work for you. Okay, so that's the basic way that you'll search for these academic articles we're looking for. You can also use books if you would like, and that would be in a different type of search, maybe in the catalog. So if I can get back to it. Oops, maybe right up here. You could also try one of these other searches. Bang Search is one that kind of integrates a lot of the different search engines that we have. It's up here as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can search with the library. Okay, let me get back to the... okay, so then once you found these articles and you've got kind of a heads up on what you're wanting to talk about, you want to look at what a citation is. And technically a citation is just how you're going to tell the reader, me in this case, or whoever's reading your article or your essay, that this certain material comes from someone else. It gives your readers the information that they need to find that source again. So in case they said, oh, that was really interesting, I want to go and read that article. You're going to give information about the author, the title, location, and the date it was published, and the page numbers. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. Why should I cite my sources? Giving credit to the original author is just the way that we work with authors without plagiarizing, okay? It's how we can use them as expert sources, how we can use that information and that argument, but not plagiarize. Not all the sources are maybe necessary. It just depends. It also shows how much research you've done. To me, it helps me to see, oh, okay, they really did research this essay that they're writing. They looked at a variety of different articles and got some different viewpoints that they were able to kind of come together and think about. So the question usually for students is, when do I need to actually cite it? Basically, whenever you use quotations or whenever you paraphrase. And the difference in those two, quotations are when you take directly the words that they're saying and you put them into your paper. You use quotes around them. If you read a paragraph and you summarize it into your own words, you paraphrase. That would be considered a paraphrase. If you use an idea that they have, it's already expressed, that's the time to cite as well. So, as I mentioned, as far as paraphrasing, summary is when you kind of capture this gist of the information and you maybe get it down to a few words or sentences. Paraphrase is when you review a complete source in much greater detail, but you put it in your own words, okay? It still reflects their opinion, not necessarily your own. and then a direct quotation, which it should, if you're going to use the direct quotation, you want it to be a significant sentence or a couple of sentences from the author. Okay, I don't want to see an essay that's just direct quote after direct quote after direct quote. It needs to be, you need to paraphrase more of those or summarize more of those in your own words. Make sure that you, as I said, make sure you're not stringing quotes together. You need to have those summaries of what your own explanation is and how you connect it back to what you're trying to argue before you just do quote after quote after quote. As far as an MLA citation, this is very confusing a lot of times to students. If you mention the author, okay, the source, within the paragraph you're writing and you make it clear that it's from this author, then you don't have to put their name at the end. For instance, I wrote an article, so you're using my article. Ann McNellis stated in her article that the students in her class are among the best at OBU. And then you'd put a parentheses, you'd put a page number, close parentheses, period. Normally, you won't do that. I mean, you might, but then you would need to put the author and the page number. For instance, the students in this freshman composition class are among the brightest and best that the university has ever seen. Parentheses McNellis 25, parentheses close. Parentheses close, period. So that would be if you do not mention the author. So those are your two main ways of doing it. When we use a quotation in MLA, it looks like this, which is kind of weird. You do not need a comma between the author and the page number. If the quote is longer than 4 lines, you have to indent it, okay? So if you have a quotation longer than 4 lines, indent it, 2 tabs, continue to double space, and make sure you cite it. You can come back and review this PowerPoint if you need to, or you can find them in that little Sequel handbook that you should have for this class. Okay, I want to show you 2 other little tricks before we move on to the annotated bibliography. When you do a works cited page, I've just about got to where I'm just teaching you to do it through a couple websites. There's one called BibMe that is a great site you can go to. You just go bibme.com and put in that you're using an MLA format, which is the type we're doing. Let's see, you can find a book by the title. So let's say we're going to use a book, The Help. You can search for it. You want to leave it on this autofill mode. You're going to select this book because this is the book that you want. And it's going to generate for you what the MLA citation is going to look like, okay? So it's right there. You'll just create your citation. And it's right here, okay? And so then you will just put this, copy and paste it into your essay, okay? So that's one option you have. Another option is if you use Word, it has a section up here called References, and you can insert a citation. And in that, if you'll just go to Insert Citation and add new source, you can put in here if it's a website, if it's a journal article, if it's a book, and you just put in here that you put, let's say the author is Ann McNellis, the title is English is Awesome, the journal is The World of English, it was written in 2015, and I'm looking at page 25. And the medium is a journal. I think it says that. So it'll actually put it into your site with you, like as you're writing your paper, you can put it in like that. Then when you're ready to do your bibliography, you just type in Works Cited right here, and it does it for you. Okay. So those are your 2 options as far as the easiest ways that